what I've been told by family members is friends disappear, family members stop visiting. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I'll be with him every step, and he'll always know that I'm there. And I can't always get there now because I'm in Leicester, but he'll always get a text message from me. Every 2 weeks I'll try and be there for him and have 40 minutes an hour with him, because it's important that what has happened to other MND sufferers doesn't happen to me, mate. Yeah, I think a lot have massively changed, but everything I've changed to I already had an element of. And what I mean by that is, I was a captain for pretty much since I was 10. Professionally, I did 13 years at the Rhinos, and part of your job is to care and look after people and make sure the team is in the best place possible. This has been an extension of that, and when you finish playing, like, life takes a massive shift, because in many ways you're lost and you're starting again, and you try to find an identity, and trying to find, the big word I'd use is fulfillment. Where do you get that in this next period, this next chapter? And I was really conscious that rugby wouldn't define the rest of my life. So you start again at 35 and trying to work out which path to go down. Now, I feel very fortunate because I know why I'm here, know why I'm on this earth, and that's to help people. Unfortunately, it took a massive, terrible, tragic event for me to work out what that was, and that was Rob being diagnosed, and the work we've been able to do for the MND community ever since that point, and for Rob and the family. But unfortunately for me, it took a massive shift like that to really grab hold of what came next. I've had so much fulfillment from trying to help this wonderful community of people who, for many years, have had, this illness has been swept under the carpet, and they've been lost, and they've had to deal with the challenges this disease throws at them on their own. So being able to try and provide a bit of hope to that community, they're a beautiful community. They are so tough, like mentally tough, fighters, warriors, the absolute best of us. But they've got a spirit and a humour about them that is, it's the best of us, and that's gripped me, and I'm passionate about it. And actually, it's massively helped me coaching. Like, when you think I'm a shift in my job as well, having gone through some of the things I've gone through the last 3.5 years, you add to that the experience from rugby that I had, as you know, means I have a pretty fulfilling life at the minute. Yeah, so I mentioned this in the book, and I've shared this with lots of people since Rob's diagnosis. But Rob got diagnosed, and a couple of days after his diagnosis, and he went public, we went to see Doddy up in Carlisle, and he was brilliant. Like, it was one of the best meetings I've been at. A sad meeting, but a really uplifting meeting. I had 6'10" Doddy Weir stood next to 5'4¼ Rob Burrow, right? And it was comical, the picture we've got, and it still makes me laugh today. We got these two absolute warriors and champions in different sports who come together in horrific circumstances, but actually Doddy's impact on me and Rob in particular that day, but a friendship was born for Doddy and I too. And then a car journey home, which you do what any mate would do, which is, how much do you need? Like, we've been rugby league players, so that means you have a brilliant lifestyle, but you don't have enough money to carry you through the rest of your life. You're going to have to work again, and there's something special about that, by the way. I really do. I think there's something really important for us as sports people to know that you have to go again, and you can't just rest on your laurels. There's a challenge set down for you. Part of that journey home, it was a bit teary between the two of us, and we agreed on an amount of money, and I promised him by Christmas 2020 he'd wake up Christmas morning with that amount of money, so that he didn't have to worry himself or concern himself with financial aspects of being a family man. all he had to concern himself with was living his life to the full. And at that stage, we didn't know how long Rob would be here. The stats are 50% die within the first 2 years, a third die in the first 12 months. So, like, he's staring down the barrel, but not quite sure when someone's going to pull the trigger on him. So brilliantly, the club, the Rhinos and our former team start to set some fundraising activity up for him, and loads of the players did different things, but there was two big things in particular. Jamie Jones shared his testimonial game. We played Bradford, 20,000 people, live on Sky Sports, and some of the old boys put the boots on for a couple of minutes. Rob played for about 5 minutes at the end. It was a really touching, emotional moment. And they also ran a big gala dinner, probably the biggest dinner the club had ever done. Sports stars from all over the UK supported. There was jerseys coming in from all different football, rugby, netball, like the jerseys coming, and it were a fantastic do. And then, as we know, COVID hit. So we then found ourselves in lockdown and watched COVID destroy families and businesses across the UK. But we get to September and I'm scratching my head a little bit. So I'm run fit at this stage, because in our hour a day that we all got where we could go outside, I've been running. And I'm conscious that I made Rob a promise that by Christmas he'd have this money, and he was short. So I'm right, I'm going to have to do something. I'll run. And you start to go, well, what can it be? So obviously Rob's number 7, and we go, I'm going to do 7 marathons in 7 days. They're all under 4 hours, because we could do 6 or 7 or 8 hours, but actually for people to get behind us and support, they need to understand that most people don't run a marathon under 4 hours, so we'll do all 7 under 4. Try and raise 77,777. And that was the start. That was the start of then we get the challenge done. And I felt like the Ready Brett man, the team were fantastic. There were 6 of us. We couldn't have more than 6 because of the COVID protocol. Now I was working as director of rugby at Leeds, so I knew the professional protocol for a COVID team. We got tested 2 days before, set out and put these runs together out the back of my car. Very raw and real. No real science behind it, but we give it a crack. We got it done. And I think by the end of day 7, we were at 1.4 million. Currently sit now for that first one just over 2.7 million. So like the response was incredible. BBC Breakfast did a great job with Sally, Claire and Freddie, and like sport got behind us, the MND community got behind us, and we probably got a sweet spot in the run up to Christmas. Everyone had a few extra quid in the pocket because they'd been on furlough and not been able to spend the money, so supported it. And it were at that moment I knew I had to do something different with my life. And what I'll try and stress to people is mine and Rob's friendship isn't unique within that group.
Yep.
There's probably, as you know, Damien, right? There's 8, 9, maybe 10 blokes who played together across that 15-year period who I knew that at any moment we'd send the Batman sign up and the lads would come and do their bit and fundraise. And that's the beauty of being in a team sport where you've been through some brilliant times together, but also some pretty rough ones. And I think that's a great thing about rugby of either code, because I've found that out as well since being across in rugby union. Like, the people are very, very special. Now, I'm going to include the women's game in this and the girls' game because I've seen it there too. It's just as powerful within that element of the game too. So I think those who've played rugby end up with a really special bond. I think it was never something we really talked about. I think what helped was the core group of that team came through together. So we've known each other since we were 12, 13, 14. And then within that, we probably came into the team when there was no baggage. The club hadn't won trophies for 30 odd years. Suddenly we win one. And then the momentum, and lads got offered a lot more money to take contracts at other clubs, turned it down because they wanted to stay together and then the longer you are together and the more times you play together and you win trophies together and there's another one knock a big deal back and stays, it just tightens up and tightens up and tightens up. And I feel very fortunate that my experience from playing in a team was a brilliant one, because some like-minded guys decided they were going to work incredibly hard for each other. And in the bigger moments in games, like, I knew at times we weren't the best team, and I look at opposition teams who were playing in finals or whatever and go, they're better than us, but what they don't have is the spirit we have. And the best way I can sum that up is, you knew that if you made a mistake, someone would cover your backside, and not every team has that. So the really easy way is you reward what you see, or the good things you see. So if you're in games, someone makes a mistake, yet somebody then runs 60 metres to make a cover tackle in a corner, save a try, right, reward it. Stick it up on the big screen in front of everyone, tell everyone how important it is. And you keep rewarding and making a big deal about the behaviours you want to see. And we'd have had that with a number of coaches I had. But if you make effort areas, if you like, but certainly from a defensive point of view, that's when you really rely on each other in games of rugby, I'd say, in football and netball, most invasion games. When you defend for each other, that's where you see it. Now, we did have some, Rob was a brilliant attacking player, Danny Maguire was a brilliant attacking player, and they'd turn up on plays when they'd just sniff it and see it. It'd be really hard to coach that, I think, because you just had a natural feel. Whereas defensively, yeah, you can definitely coach it. And the big one is lads want to be praised. The vast majority of us want to be praised, want to be told we're good at something, or so by rewarding that, you tend to get it. Well, I feel like I'm a pretty fortunate one here, Jay, because I got back in the team. So I got left out and I was staring down the barrel of going, this is over for me here.
Yeah.
It's my 13th year as captain.
And what had been said to you? Was it just silence or?
No, there's a chapter in the book about it. Now, the coach at the time, Brian McDermott, who I get on famously with, like, we're good friends. But I think it happens in most teams where there can be a coach-player breakdown or a coach-captain. Sadly, for us at the time, he would probably argue, and I'm sure he would, that I weren't playing well enough. My comeback on that would be, for what my game was at that stage in the last few years of my career, it looked very different to early on. So I was more get the team around the field, but I knew I could get more out of every player than anyone else could. So if you were a 6 out of 10, I'd get a 7. If you were a 7 out of 10, I'd get you to an 8. So being left out and the conversation, it makes me smile when I look back on it, because when you're 17, 18, 19, you're trying to get into a team, you're looking for a lot. You're observing the coach, you're observing behaviours, you're observing conversations. So it's not hard to work out. When you're in a game of rugby league, there's 13 players. Coach comes into the gym on selection day and he speaks to his 13 guys. Then he picks his 4 subs and you see him grab, and you tend to have a good idea who's been picked. That particular day, it was a Friday afternoon. Brian named a 13 in the team meeting. I wasn't in it. We go out onto the field, and again, I feel like I'm 34 at this point, but I feel like I'm 18 because I'm watching the coach and looking for the signals. But in my gut, I had a feeling he's not going to pick me this week. And I saw him call 4 other players over and then called me over as number 5. And I knew what were coming. And the conversation was pretty direct, no eye contact. Don't need you this week. Don't need you next week. We play Huddersfield at home in the Cup. The week after we play OKR away, still no eye contact. I might need you. So I was like, right, okay. What do you want me to do? And he said, not bothered. Don't care. So at that point, you're sort of in a bit of a tailspin. best way I can describe it, the bloke on Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels blows all his money and he comes down them stairs knowing he's lost. That were me at that point. 34-year-old going, I'm done here. This is how it's going to end. Following day, I go in. The lads have been given, the lads who were playing the games on the Sunday are given Saturday off. And I go in and train with those who aren't playing, so 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And actually it was brilliant for me in terms of connecting with those guys. Those guys had never seen me drop before, thought were untouchable. Then suddenly I'm in doing fitness.
Did you talk to them about it and use it as an opportunity to...
I did later on,
right?
But at that point, I didn't open up. As I started to get back into the team, things started to, yes, but then I started to speak to them about it. And on the Sunday, I went to watch with my son. The team got pumped pretty heavily at Widnes. The following morning, we go in, non-playing players are doing fitness. Those who've played are on recovery. Brian's coach's office window opens and asks if I've got a minute. So the guy who's running the conditioning session says, yep, you can go up. Go back into the training ground. Take me time, by the way. Take me time.
I bet you did.
Take my boots off. Saunter
Let him
up to
wait.
his room. Sit in his office and he tells me he may need me this week. And that's it. Back in. And how quickly things can change. So sort of 2.5, 3 days earlier, and your mind's spinning, and your head's everywhere going, I'm done here, and then suddenly you're back in, and we finish the season, we win the treble. From the minute I got back in the team, which was the cup game, I was like, you will never leave me out again. I'll show you. And what I did, I knew every single minute I had left to play. I knew how many training sessions I had. And it's quite sad when I think of it like this now, because I always loved training, I loved playing, but I was counting down so that I was going to finish the grand final win. And that was my target, but I was absolutely adamant I would never lose my spot. I understand that it was difficult for him. I do understand. You know, he's dropping his captain. A fair amount of pressure on him. There'd have been a fair amount of flack, I suspect, as well, from those who were really loyal to you because he'd been there so long. The fact it ended the way it did makes it really easy to be, you know, good friends and to be able to chat things through and try and understand. So as a coach, there's a couple of things. Treat people as you want to be treated. And my big strength, I think, is never forget what it's like to put your boots on. And I remember that. So every conversation I have with a player, treat them as I want to be treated, and then also try and put myself in their shoes and understand exactly where it sits from, what their viewpoint is, and so that I can try and communicate in a certain way that lands and we still get an improvement that day. They were the most formative experiences that I got, the tough ones. They're the bits that let you know what you're made of, let you find out what character you've got. Not the trophy lifts, not the ones in when you're winning by 50 and you just got to do your bit. Actually, when you're backed into a corner, when you got to come out and fight and show what you're about, they were the moments that, and I had a number of them, I had a lot of them. Like everyone thinks, oh, you've won all these trophies, you did this, you did that.
Yeah.
You know, my career, there's a lot of fight and adversity and tough moments where you go, people probably think, oh, you just brushed that off, but you know, could drop for a cup final when I was 19. Lost 5 Challenge Cup finals. The only captain in history to have done it. There's only one other player, by the way, who sits alongside me as losing all 5, and it's Rob Burrow. So getting dropped at, you know, in 2015, when actually everybody looks at 2015 and says, this should be the best year of your career. You win the treble. The club had never done it in 125 years. I'd say I don't look at it like that at all. It's just like, job done, close a chapter, I'm moving on. This won't define me, and I'll use it. Yeah, well, do you know, it's really important it's in the book, because I think there's a message in it that actually at times we all struggle changing jobs, and we all have self-doubt, and we all have things that we don't want to face up to or front up to. Things seem too hard, and actually I want to go away for it. Like, it's not a, you know, there's some things you want to lean into, and there's some things you want to back off from, and I wanted to take some risk. I wanted to be uncomfortable, but I didn't want to be that uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. And I was drowning, and I got back. Some of it was I didn't have chance. If I could have done it differently, I would. And what I mean by that is I got up at 4:23 Monday morning, drove to Leicester, coached all day, got back to the hotel 8 o'clock at night, got some sleep, up the following morning. I'd not seen my kids, not seen Jane. Go again the following day, stay over again. Work all day Wednesday and drive home. And I get home about 8 o'clock Wednesday night. So I've gone for the best part of 3 days, not seen my wife, not seen my kids. Started a new job in a different sport with people I don't know. And it was too uncomfortable. So what I really needed was a couple of hours to reset with my family and think about it and process it and sleep on it, rather than just go in. And which I did. I walked in. And they love me. They know that at times they'll get reactions like that. I'm not perfect. So drop my bag and say, please don't touch my bag. I'm not going back. Then you sleep on it. I call Steve the following day and say, look, there's a problem here. I'm not coming back. And he was like, well, hold on a minute. Can we chat about this? And he was brilliant. Like, he could have really lost it with me and gone, well, whatever. He could have had a real negative reaction, and he didn't. He got it. He understood it, and he massively helped. So that was about a fortnight after that initial conversation. So I'd obviously gone on Wednesday night. I'd had Thursday at home, went back Friday morning, and we had a face-to-face, and he asked if I'd give it a go. And I agreed. What I was conscious of was I didn't want to let the players down or the coaches down. I didn't want to be somewhere for 6 weeks and then say I'm out. I thought I'm either in it or I'm not. And if I'm not, I need to tell them now and get out so that they can get someone else, and the pre-season's not ruined with a guy who has been here 6 weeks and then he's gone. But very quickly felt the warmth from the coaching team. Now, they didn't know. They wouldn't have had a clue. And I know Steve wouldn't have brought confidence with that, but very quickly felt a warmth from them. The support from them was incredible. Without that, I'm not sure I'd have stuck it out, because actually genuinely felt like they wanted me there and wanted to help and support, and didn't take the mickey when I said, what does that mean? But like, I'll be able to grab them straight after a meeting and say, can you explain that to me? Didn't ridicule, always give me time, always. Probably likewise with the players too. The players were great. So when we went for the walk in Jersey, it were heart to heart. He was checking in. He was asking where I sat, whether I changed my mind, whether I was happy. A human chat, like no rugby. It was like mate to mate. It was great. And at the time, I shared with him a couple of things about being his assistant coach, that the trust and honesty between us, and the fact that I were able to tell him exactly how I felt is testament to him. I think after 3 days, I don't know whether a lot of people might have sat on that and locked it away, but being able to share that with him, I think it really strengthened our friendship, which was probably not the best start you could have with your head coach, but and the guy who's in charge. But for whatever reason, it certainly strengthened our friendship and relationship, and he's been brilliant all the way through. I couldn't have gone and worked with a better head coach who's been so detailed and knowledgeable, yet so giving in time and understanding, and I'd say that about that coaching team too. I felt very, very lucky. Yeah, I agree. I think some of that was not having a chance to reset with my family. That was a big part in it as well. I thought, I'm staring down the barrel now of being away all this time, when I know how important they are. Even those my boys now are 18 and 15, so the moments I have with them I tend to be around mealtime, but they know I'm there, and if they need me, I'm there. Suddenly mealtime had gone again, and small interactions. So probably a combination of everything. If Leicester had been 40 minutes away and I'd gone home that night, I'm sure I'd have been fine. I might have vented and had a really deep conversation with Jane and said, look, I'm struggling here, and like, what do you think? I think that certainly, I don't think it'd have ended up me having a conversation with Steve on the Thursday for a start off, but it just seemed like there was a massive problem. But actually, when you break it down and go, right, the job, what are the important elements of the job, right? The travel, the family time, how do I get the best balance? Whereas I just pulled them all together and gone, this is too big.
Right.
So that's why it's in the book, because I could have missed that out and I could have said, I've gone to Leicester and this was plain sailing, but it wasn't. And I think, I hope that there'll be some people who listen to this who go, well, actually, I felt some of this when I changed jobs, or I'm about to change job, but I've got an idea of what might come now, especially if it's very different. And when you say rugby and league and union, how similar they seem, yeah, it's hockey and ice hockey. Yeah. They're very different, very different. Yeah, she was brilliant. She laughed at first and then she realised I was serious.
She thought you were joking.
Yeah, realised I was serious. And
she's like, don't come back home. Yeah, this was great for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Sleep on it. Yeah, sleep on it. You'll feel better in the morning. Like, we're here. We'll always be here for you. You got to come to the right decision on it, but it's never going to be easy. This, you're going to have to. So she was brilliant. Yeah, well, I know how valuable running's been for me. I don't particularly like running. It's funny because 3.5 years ago, if you'd have said to me you'd have wrote a book and you'd done 3 running challenges, I'd have said, oh, you're crazy. Like, I'd have run some marathons, so it does make me smile. But I just felt that the fulfillment I got from the first challenge, being back in a team with some mates who just took some time off work to give me an hand. And I loved it. So I was like, right, let's go again. And actually, I could feel there was an appetite for us to go again, the MND community, whenever I met somebody from that community. And now we're talking. They're not just meeting people with MND who could be in a wheelchair, on a breathing apparatus, or just starting out on that journey. There were family members from people who had passed 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago who were now stopping in the supermarket and going, thank you for what you did. Your team are brilliant. Will you go again? Because actually, you've put a spotlight on this and it means a lot to us. We lost such and such a body however many years ago, and like, you've helping us deal with it. So that was a big driver in going again. Plus, I felt like, whilst ever Rob were willing to fight like he was willing to fight, I felt like he needed to see me fight with him, or needed to see members of our team not just disappear. Because I think that's what, when you find somebody who gets MND, what I've been told by family members is friends disappear, family members stop visiting. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I'll be with him every step, and he'll always know that I'm there. And I can't always get there now because I'm in Leicester, but he'll always get a text message from me. Every 2 weeks I'll try and be there for him, and have 40 minutes an hour with him. because it's important that what has happened to other MND sufferers doesn't happen to me, mate, and hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody else who's got MND now or gets it in the future. So the plan behind the second one, you're right, I didn't have time. I felt like I weren't in a position to go to Steve and say, can I have a week off? Because I wouldn't mind doing another challenge for my pal. Actually, I think Steve would have supported me. In fact, I'm sure he'd have supported me, but I thought we could try and cram it into one day, which was a bit of a mistake, actually. But yeah, it was a way of, I suppose, celebrating two clubs that I felt Leicester, certainly in those first 4 to 6 weeks, really made a huge effort to make me feel welcome and part of it. And it was my way as well of saying thank you, because we started in Leicester and we ran to Leeds, so it was my way of thanking the Rhinos as well. Treated me fairly, treated me with respect, spoke to me properly. I could tell straight away they cared about me. We had a team manager called TC who just couldn't do enough to help. It was the little bits of detail where she just makes sure we're travelling to an away ground. Car park is sorted. This is done. That's done. That's done. Just the little bits. So instead of you going, please can I have a car park pass this week for which, yep, most people would. It was just done. And it was looked after and taken care of, and those small bits of detail make a huge difference. The smallest bits, so typically at Leicester, on an away game, we'd travel to a hotel. Guys would eat together. They'd go through a form of mobility and stretching and start to do some activation. Then we drive to the ground. But if someone's saying to you, and there's small bits, but the big bits, car park sorted at the hotel, here's your postcode, we need you there for this time. Brilliant. And then when you go from there to the ground, this is sorted for you, you're in this car park, here's your valid, everything's done. And it's a massive weight taken. They sound like the smallest bits, but when you're a coach and you're trying to make sure that the lads are on, and the coaching team, and you're all together and you know what you're going after, actually those little bits of detail that you don't have to think about are massive for you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every time I see Rob, I come away uplifted, and I come away with a great sense of perspective about what matters.
So what does?
Family, friends. That's it. Like, try to be a good person. Actually, worrying about stuff that might never happen. Being concerned with watching a game that is a game that down in Australia that I don't really need to see, but actually might make me a 1% better coach that week from a tactical perspective. But actually me spending that time with family and friends and doing something for me actually gives me a chance of being a 5% better coach that week, because actually I've done some things that I know are important for me, and the other people get the best out of me. So the perspective's been huge. Seeing and meeting a lot of people now from the MND community, just how important those connections are in life, those human interactions, those moments when there's a glint in someone's eye, and they're the bits that, you know, we all want to spend time on our phone, and we've all got other technological things that take over our life. Actually, I come on from seeing Rob, and I'm like, my phone don't matter. Like, when my kids, where's my wife, who's ring a mate on the way home I've not spoken to for 6 months or whatever. So now, like everybody else, you go from that moment of seeing Rob, and you're brilliant for a few days, and then technology starts creeping back in, and then I go and see him again, and almost reset. The beauty about it now is I get to meet so many people with MND, or so many families who've been challenged by it, that there's a constant reminder.
Yeah.
So I'm very quickly be able to switch back. You know what, Damien, right? The funny thing is, so when I spoke to the 7 in 17 before we've done any challenge, I typically normally say, like, someone's going to get grumpy, someone's going to lose it. And what I'm saying is, at some point I will, right? But within that, 99% of what I say when I'm like that is tongue-in-cheek. It's for me to find the fun and humour in it. Now, you might say, well, that's pretty dark and dry. But actually, it helps get me through. So I'll give you an example. We're doing the 101 miles from Leicester to Leeds. And we get lost. So the guy who's navigating cops a mouthful, right? But by this stage, everybody's into him, right? Because we've
How many miles in were you by this stage?
By this stage, we're probably about 65 mile in.
That's an awful distance, because you're only just over halfway.
Sure.
So you're thinking, we've got another 40 miles to go.
Yeah. Running through a graveyard at 20 to 1 in the morning, like, just not what you want to be doing, is it? It's pitch black, there's gravestones everywhere. It's like being on Scooby-Doo. And yeah, you just want to be on a well-lit road, because you know at any minute you trip up,
all over.
It's done. Yeah. So give him a gobful, and then suddenly he goes from being at the front on his bike, bouncing out of his seat, to disappeared. So I'm then going, where is he? Oh, he's back there. He's upset. Right. Send him back up. He comes back up. I'm sorry. I told you we're going to be grumpy. Come on, we need you. Boom. He's bouncing out of his seat again. He's happier. So I actually find humour in it. Now, they don't at the time, because Tom in particular, the guy who got us lost, he didn't know my humour, and he was new to the group.
You're not calling the guy that got us lost, the navigator.
The navigator, yeah. So Tom was a made-up name, all right?
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah. But those in the group who, I've got one guy in particular who's known me, I don't know, 20 odd years. He's always with me on his bike. He knows exactly when to push, when to pull back. So he gets it, and I don't have to say anything. The complication in the 100 miler was with 7 stages to go. And for those who don't know, what we did was run around the number 7. We'd run 7k an hour. And whatever were left in the hour, we had as a break. And we went every hour on the hour. And we got a member of the MND community to ring a bell 1 minute before a start to let us know exactly why we're there. We heard their story, it fueled us to go. But with 7 hours to go, there's 49 kilometres left to run. My legs had stopped working. So, best way I can describe it, I am the captain of a plane, and I've got all these different lights and buttons around me like I'm in a cockpit. So, I'm tired, so I put the autopilot on. And then I noticed the fuel gauge is going down, and it's, right, okay, turn that system off, that system off, that system. And all the time while I'm trying to run, I've started to turn systems off. So I'm not speaking at this stage. I'm not really communicating. People are getting a thumbs up from me when everyone's saying, you all right? Do you want something to eat? And you're going, no, leave me. Stop taking food on, stop taking fluid on, because you just had enough and you're that tired. So we got to the point where I'm going, 7 hours to go. We're going down in this plane. My job now is to make sure we don't go down before we hit the runway and just try and stay on. So when you're that tired, and I knew this going in, like they said to me, we had a brilliant guy who's a professor in sports science. He said to me, when you're tired, you've not had sleep, things will seem 40% worse. So I kept reminding myself, I'm not that bad. I'm actually 40% better than I think I am. So trying to find ways of finding humour. I love people making me laugh when they're in that dark zone, like, make me laugh, do something daft or funny, or tell a joke or whatever it is, or start singing a crazy song. And the challenges have been really special because they've been horrific and tough and took me to some serious places. But actually there's some really, really funny moments in there. And I think that's the great thing about being in a team. You're sharing those funny moments, and then afterwards when you've got it done, you're able to look each other in the eye and go, how good was that?